Вие слушате Свръхчовекът с Георги Ненов, подкастът, който ви вдъхновява да живеете живота на мечтите си. Отворете съзнанието си, за да почерпите от мъдростта и опита на успешни хора, иноватори, предприемачи, творци и мотиватори, които да ви покажат една различна гледна точка по пътя към вашия собствен успех. Има само едно време, което е от съществено значение, и това време е сега.
Hi guys, this is me, Georgi here, and you're listening to the Superhuman podcast in Bulgarian, Свръхчовекът Георги Ненов. This would be my first ever episode in English, and I'm very happy to introduce Mario Tomich. Mario is entrepreneur and the creator of the fitness program, the Fitness Mastery. Hi Mario, thank you very much for accepting my invitation and coming to my flat so we can record this podcast. First time in English, it's a huge new leap for me, but I know inevitably the podcast will go global, of course. So please introduce yourself to the people that haven't heard who Mario Tomich is, haven't watched any of your YouTube videos. You have more than around 100,000 subscribers. If you have more channels, I don't know about that, but yeah. On your main channel. So go ahead.
Awesome, man. I'm honored to be the first English speaker that you have here, which is amazing. And yeah, I appreciate the invitation. And for those of you that don't know me, I run a company that helps entrepreneurs and busy professionals get in amazing shape so they can dominate their space, right? Because the way our visions are, and today a lot of the people that I work with, they're really seeing health and fitness as one of the leverage points that they can use to get an edge in the world and also feel better about themselves. And it's an amazing journey of mastery and self-discovery, right? It's just one of those other things that compared to business, and there's a lot of parallels as well. So the skills that you build up by getting in better shape will actually translate really well into other areas of life. So I've been focused on that it's been almost 5 years since I've done Fitness Mastery, which is my program. That's my coaching program. And yeah, I'm all over the place. Like, I mean, it's quite easy to find me if you Google, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. So yeah, there's lots of stuff out there.
Your website is www.tomic.com?
Yeah, tomic.com.
Tomic, yeah, with C. I'm going to put it in the info because I like to share this with my listeners so they don't struggle to find like the resources or the websites of my guests. I'm going to share also your YouTube channel, which would be the video that you recommend that they watch first if they're like first time users of your YouTube channel.
Yeah, if you just open the channel, if you've not been subscribed, there's going to be a video, I think, on the front page that automatically gets featured. I think there's one video that I've selected already to show for people, so you can check that one out. I think you're going to get lots of value out of pretty much any one of them. But one of the things as well, like if you go browse through the channel, just see what resonates with you the most in the situation, right? So if some topic doesn't really relate to you right now, just pick a different video that will. I guarantee you will find something that relates.
You talk a lot about business also, and like the connection between being healthy and building up a good life. This is some of the things that you talked about in our event on Sunday, last Sunday on the 17th of June, Aesthetic by Science with Stan and Nicola. So can you please give us a very quick info of what you shared back then, and like which were like the five points that you mentioned, and why do you think they're important?
Yeah, so the seminar was interesting because I usually, the way I do seminars is I have my framework, but at the same time I like to see where the audience is at. And when I compared what most of the other, Stan and Nicola went into some really cool stuff about fitness, so I decided to go more into the space of personal development and really how to implement these things. Because that's the big problem. It's not actually knowing what to do oftentimes. It's just really, okay, how do I do this and how do I do it consistently? And that level of consistency that's required to get the best results is usually where people struggle. And that's the implementation, the adherence, as you call it in research. And look at anything, look at any diet, look at any exercise plan. I mean, it's going to give you decent results if you're consistent with it. Now, you can have the best workout and it's not going to give you almost any results if you're not consistent with it. So that's my approach. And the reason why I went into those 5 points is, I think the first point was removing limiting beliefs, because that's one of the things that I felt like over the years, and most of those that I said, the 5, they were from my experience of what helped me the most. So for me personally, I had a lot of limiting beliefs coming out of the environment where I grew up in, because nobody there does or even think that it's possible to do what I'm doing right now. So a lot of those types of beliefs and the system that I grew up with was basically, okay, just go to school, try to finish college. I was first in my family to finish college. Go to get a job, get a little bit better salary than most people, and that's really the path you go, and you get married, and that's basically it, right? Like, you just live that life in a very tiny village where I'm from, and yeah, it's not really that, like, people don't talk about Tony Robbins books and personal development where I'm from, right? And a lot of limiting beliefs are also related to how you should take care of your health, or should you even take care of your health. Most people think it's either that's genetically how you are made, that's it, so you can't really change much. And the other thing as well is in business, most people think that money would be evil, right? So if you make a lot of money, or if you try to actually start a business, that's like you're taking from someone else versus adding more value and really helping people. So I had a lot of limiting beliefs myself, and I just see that as well as one of the big crutches from the people I work with, and especially people at events that I meet, thousands of around the world. It doesn't even matter which country you're from. Funny enough, like almost every country that I've been in, there's a tremendous amount of limiting beliefs that create success barriers, and that's where individuals start self-sabotaging themselves. Because if you don't believe that you can actually do something, like if you have that type of limitation, even subconsciously, it's going to swim out at some point when things get really hard. And you won't have the grit, you won't have the persistence that's necessary to actually keep doing things that you need to do. And that's one of the first points that I wanted to cover, is really how to remove those limiting beliefs. And most people don't realize that their identity and their sense of self has been formed as they were growing up as little kids, and even through their entire life, they're being programmed. We're being programmed right now. You're either being programmed by the right thing or by the wrong thing. Now, it's your choice with what you want to be programmed. If you're listening to this, you're not 4 years old, so you actually have a choice. And that's really one of the first points that I made there, is that you gotta be able to put yourself in a position, in an environment where you're being programmed the right stuff. So audiobooks, mentors, exposing yourself to positive self-talk, learning how to reframe, learning how to stay positive. Otherwise, you get stuck in these negative loops where you're basically stressing yourself out, you're being stressed out, you're thinking about some low value things that don't even matter, or you're not even in control over, like politics or stuff like that. It doesn't even matter at all. And if that occupies your mental space, you won't have enough RAM to take care of yourself. So if you waste your 20s and 30s thinking about politics, if you spend the entire day thinking about some soccer game, and I'm a big soccer fan, by the way, but I shouldn't be spending my entire day researching statistics on soccer. That's not really what I should be doing, right? Because if I do that, I'm going to miss out on the other things as well. So it's really about learning how to feed your mind with the right things, so you can be very, very consistent and seek excellence, right? So that was point number 1, right? And I think that a lot of people resonate with that, because I think Bulgaria is very similar to Croatia, Bosnia, Serbia. I mean, this entire kind of Balkan region, I think we grew up very similar conditions, most people, right? I think the second point that I made was about how to build that identity. I believe it was a piece that really all your habits and who you are stem from the point of identity. So your identity and who you believe you are can dictate a lot of the actions you make. And why I like that, because if you look into self-determination theory, and this is something I didn't want to go into the seminar because it's super complicated, right? But it's about a 40-year-old theory from motivational psychology, is you have different levels of motivation, right? So if an individual is in a complete external motivation, they're basically driven by punishment, someone is asking compliance, someone is, pulling out a bat in the dark alley, okay, you're going to do this right now, or I'm going to hit you. You can get someone to do something like that, or monetary, let's say, punishment. You go to the gym, okay, I'm going to give you $100. If you don't go, I'm going to keep the $100, right? That works short term, but it leads to something called fragile adherence. And similarly also, not just that level of external, completely external, but also like if you try to guilt yourself into going to the gym, or if you try to guilt or shame yourself into doing things that you need to do, or if it's coming from ego fulfillment, or if it's coming from pride, it still leads to rigid adherence. And rigid adherence simply means that you're going to be inconsistent, because that type of motivation won't last very long, because it's not completely intrinsic, or it's not even remotely intrinsic. Now, as you move toward that somewhere halfway, you start realizing, okay, health is a part of my value system. So that's somewhere halfway. So health is important for me. And that's where you start really seeing and connecting the dots. Okay, I'll do health because it's going to enable me to do better things in my life. It's going to make me healthier. So it's a very logical and conscious level of understanding of how it's good for you. But then there's a level beyond that, where health becomes a part of your belief. It's a deeper identity. So it's, for example, someone says, I'm running because running is going to help me lose weight. If I lose weight, I'm going to be healthier, versus I'm a runner, right? If you move to a point where, okay, I'm a runner, they're going to run no matter what, whether it's snowing, raining, thunderstorm, whatever the hell is out there, right? So that would be like level 4 where you could get, and that's really tough for most people to get there, and it really takes a lot of work to get to that level. But then there's a level beyond that, which you can glance at some point as well, which is the level of complete passion and joy, which is completely intrinsic, where the activity puts you in flow state. And that's the level where once you get to that level, you can't even make someone not do that. Like you have to force them not to do it, because they're so passionate about it. They're going to just go all out, and they're going to go out of their way to find any opportunity to express themselves in that specific activity. So that's very opposite from the punishment or reward paradigm. Imagine a little kid. I mean, if you try to pay the kid to play, it doesn't make sense. The kid is just that's a classic example. A kid is going to play because it just puts them in flow states, intrinsically rewarding. You don't have to give them money to play. In fact, if you actually take students, they did research on this. If you pay someone money for their passion, it actually becomes less of a passion, quote unquote. If you try to reward them for doing something that they would do anyway. And a lot of people lose motivation to do things once they reach a paradigm where they started getting monetary rewards for it, because their reasoning, they haven't had a strong identity yet, right? So that's really key. So I didn't go too deep into that in the seminar, but I did go into the point of that you absolutely must build an identity, which is really, really important. I believe that's one of the things that is huge.
Yeah. I also believe that the internal motivation, what drives you, is more important than if someone on the outside drives you. Your wife cannot tell you to stop smoking, but if you want to stop smoking yourself, to be way stronger, for example. Yeah, that's awesome. It's really cool. Is there any book or anything that you can recommend on this topic, on understanding better how to build your identity of the person who you really want to be?
A good starting point would be reading a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And there's a few versions of that book. If you pick up the one that's called The New Psycho-Cybernetics, that's going to be fine, or the old one. Regardless, both will be really well, because that's going to introduce you to a concept called self-image, which is really important.
Awesome. We'll go back to books a bit later on when when we go through your website, and it's amazing how you formed this. Then what was the third point?
I believe the third point was the point of 100% commitment. And creating boundaries in your life where that commitment can actually happen. Because the one thing that we have, and we all have 168 hours a week. That's it. That's the same amount of hours. Me, you, everybody listening, everybody on the planet, 24 hours a day, 168 a week. That's what you got to deal with. Now, most people, when they try to be successful and when they try to break out and they try to do certain new things, obviously that the change only happened in their mind first. Nobody outside can see it, and they're still living relatively similar lives to before. So nothing, like all the responsibilities, all the things that they build, the habits, the schedule is pretty similar. Now it's up to you now to start expressing some personal boundaries and starting to say no to certain things, where you then can prioritize yourself and putting yourself in a situation where you have the time and the mental resources to actually deal with things. And that's what I see as one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they try to be successful, is they think of it as adding new stuff. Actually, it's more about saying no to a lot of things. So you being able to say no and learning how to say no. So if your buddies on a Wednesday night call you out and they're, okay, you know, let's go grab a drink and there's a game and it's drink and we'll stay up, and you know that the next day you have some really important things that you've already planned out for the week, you're going to say no in that situation. And you're going to say no regardless of the fear what they might think, because that's the biggest fear. And you know, in 2018, as you're listening to this and moving forward, our biggest fear right now is what other people think. Out of all the other fears of survival, of the other fears, what people think is one of the biggest fears right now in sort of this modern human existence. So you have to be able to say no. And saying no is not easy, because people will, most of them will not understand what you mean. What do you mean you're not going to go out drink with us on Wednesday? That's kind of what happened to me initially. What do you mean you're not going to barbecue with us for the 4th time this week? You know, what do you mean you're not going to drink with us? You know, because that shift has changed me in my mind. Externally, I still look exactly the same, and I've been doing that activity maybe for years. So when I now say no, what are you? Are you sick? Are you, what's wrong? Or is it something wrong with us? Are you mad at someone? You know, and you start getting into these low level vibration energy things. Yeah, and you get into this weird stuff. So it's really key for you to be able to learn how to say no and live in that no and really experience that. Number one, it's not a big deal. Number two, that eventually you will filter out people that really are your friends, who really care about you, who really understand what you're doing. And number two is like some of them just disappear, which is normal. Right? Your friends will change over time. Like if you're doing things right, you're reinventing yourself every year, every 5 years, you shouldn't be able to recognize yourself. So your friends should be changing. I mean, some of them will stay there, some of them won't, but your real friends will stay. The ones that continue evolving and improving, and the other ones, maybe you can just meet up with them when it's something that you're really having in common, but most of the other stuff, they can't relate, and that's normal, right? That's absolutely normal. So that's the point 3 that I wanted to make, is like learning how to say no. And the other point as well, like if you don't have a hater at least before noon every day, you're not putting yourself out there, right? Enough. So that's one of the questions from the audience later on. That
you said something about unlearning.
Yeah, that was another point.
You started with it.
Yeah, that was the limiting belief part, right? So unlearning the beliefs, right?
Okay, awesome.
So I just framed it as unlearning in the seminar, but it is removing limiting beliefs, right? And the question from the audience was really nice. Like, how do I deal with people like that don't support me? That's related to this saying no. And it's tough, right? But that's the good thing, because for you to get the things that you want that most people don't have, you have to do stuff that most people won't do. So by definition, you're going to be an outlier, and by definition, you're going to disagree with 99% of people, right? So that's what you need to do. There's no way around it. So that's really key. Number 4, I think, point was about measuring and tracking your success and progress. So you're not just hoping that it's going to work out. That's a really fine point. I always want to add some form of objectivity there. And just because people, the way they think about, okay, I'm going to listen to this podcast, or I'm going to go to this seminar, and it's just going to happen. Clearly nothing happens, right? So unless you have what is called implementation intentions, if you don't know exactly when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, what you need to do, what's the next logical step, you don't have, like, it's not concrete. It's dreaming that it will happen, but that's also giving you that satisfaction. So it's actually a trap where just by you dreaming about it, it feels so good that you don't even want to take the first step. So that's the point where you got to start tracking, measuring, and being objective with it. And number 5 was seeking mentors. So that's one of the shortcuts. I think that's, from my experience, the only shortcut really is to find mentors and people that have done it. So they've stepped on all the landmines. You don't have to do that. And you don't have to repeat the same mistakes. In the definition of insanity, one of them is, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting the same results. And the other definition my definition of insanity is just not looking for help when you are stuck in that type of situation. That is insane. Because you live in a world right now, I mean, there's so many opportunities to find mentors that it's ridiculous not to. There's no excuse in 2018 not to go out and really find someone, or join paid programs, invest in yourself, because that's going to save you the time, and you'll be able to take advantage of the fact that you live in this so prosperous time. And I'm saying prosperous, even though you might feel like right now, oh my God, it's like the salary is low. look, this is the most prosperous period of the existence so far that ever occurred. So if that's it, like, you got to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Why do you say it's the only shortcut to seek mentorship and paid like groups or people that have higher expertise than you?
I say that because when I say mentorship, I don't mean necessarily just having a coach, but I mean like books, listening to this podcast, you're being mentored right now, listening to, reading, finding, searching for people that have already done what you want to do, and being able to understand how they've gone about things, because that's the way we evolved. I mean, if me and you went out and we saw a saber-toothed tiger right now, do you think we would go out and pet the saber-toothed tiger?
No.
Of course not, because we know what happens. Like, we can anticipate that there were some idiots, probably it's even locked in our DNA, that some idiot one day, he did see a saber-toothed tiger, went up there, tried to pet the saber-toothed tiger, and he got his head bite off. And now you're like, okay, that's not what you should do in this situation, right? So over even tens of thousands of years, our evolution, I mean, that's how we evolve, is by learning through other people's mistakes.
Yep.
If every human repeated the mistakes of every other human, we would have still been in a stone age, right? So we can learn from others, and that's our greatest power, actually. So we can skip the learning curve.
My question was more related to the only shortcut, because generally I believe that there are no shortcuts in the others' commitment. There is no shortcut in trying to know yourself better, to limit your limiting beliefs, to get rid of them, and to build your identity. And because you said the only shortcut is to seek mentorship, I wanted to just get a bit deeper into why do people really keep looking for shortcuts, the best program, the best food regime, all these things. So they can hear it from you too, because up until this moment we've mainly had Bulgarian people, and I want to bring in something really, really fresh from the outside, so people see, okay, he basically has the same understanding of the successful people in Bulgaria. There are no shortcuts. People should work hard, like you said in the seminar. You should really go through your burnouts, do your absolute best.
I know what you mean, and if you look at the most successful people, again, you will see that they're not self-made. They work really hard, so that's assumed. So I'm assuming you're working hard. Don't get me wrong, when people listen to this, they're like, oh yeah, it's always about the shortcut. No, I'm assuming that you're working extremely hard to a point that you're burning yourself out and that you're going crazy. And at that point, mentorship can help. Like, mentorship is not going to come in and it's like removing the component of hard work. I'm assuming you're working hard, and now I want you to work hard and smart at the same time. It's not one or the other.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with mentorship, is that if you have the right attitude, that's when someone can come in and actually help you, and help you with the identity, help you remove limiting beliefs, help you do all these other things, measure progress, determine a clarity, and the plan what you need to do. But if you are not willing to do those things, if you're not 1,000% committed to actually doing those things, if you're not putting in the work, if you have zero work ethic, and if you don't know that whether you even want to do this or not, if your identity is not, if you haven't even made the first step into that identity, I mean, good luck. I mean, nobody's even going to want to mentor you, right? At that point, you're starting from scratch. Then you can just go for, a couple of books and try to do some stuff yourself until you get to a certain level, where then you can actually even go seek a mentor. Because even as a mentor, personal mentor, I mean, actually working with people, I can't work with someone who hasn't made a decision that they want to do it themselves. Right? That's something you can teach. Now, if someone that does make a decision, they want to improve and change and put in the work, then I can come in and help. But before that decision is made, they have a lot of homework to do. Right? So do your homework first if you haven't done it already.
Yeah.
Right?
Is a part of the homework to know yourself?
Absolutely. I mean, everything is about knowing yourself, because everything I say here, and exercise science, nutrition science, personal development science, business science, relationship science, at the end of the day, all those journeys are journeys of self-discovery. And science can get you to a point of knowing what on average might work, which is a decent starting point, but at the end of the day, you got to figure out exactly what works for you as an individual. Similarly, as I work with a lot of guys from different types of countries and different environments, and everything is different. and they really have their individual plans that it would not work if I would give one plan from another guy to someone else. It just doesn't work like that. So it's the same in other areas. You really have to find, there are some universal truths, but you do have to find specifically what works best for you, because you're an individual that has unique genetics, unique environment, unique lifestyle, and different goals and everything else. So yeah.
Awesome. On your website, you mentioned the big 3 that are really important to you in the section about yourself. Can we quickly go through, like, the first part is obviously health and fitness.
Yeah. Yeah, I value health and fitness, and it's a really strong part of my identity. I like to view myself as a guy that doesn't miss workouts. I like to view myself as a guy who does eat healthy, and the guy who does invest in his health and fitness, because I feel like that's one of the areas that if I master that, I know that it enables me then to get the most out of my limited time that I have, which will then enable me to do business. It's going to enable me to become a higher value person in general. So it brings one of the relatedness, one of the 3 psychological needs that humans have: competence, relatedness, and autonomy, right? Relatedness for me is to be able to provide value to other people, and also for them to also see that I matter. So it goes both ways. And being healthy and being able to operate my best means that I also don't need to rely on other people's help, and I'm in control of certain things. Because guess what? If you get sick, you're not in control anymore. And I like to be in control over my health as much as I humanly can, so I try to stay and do my best. And look, do your best, and that's it. Like, let God sort out the rest. There's not much that you can do, right? Like, you do your best, and you don't feel like you're letting yourself down, you're not letting people down, and that's the best you can do. And if you just do that, that's enough. So in my health and fitness practice, I do see myself as really operating in that level, because I want to make sure that I can be a person that other people can rely on, and that I can contribute and have some positive impact. So that's the number 1, and that enables me then to do my number 2, which is business, which is the second level of my contribution, where I link what I know in health and fitness and living a better lifestyle, and really knowing your own mind and working on your mindset, to actually that became my business eventually, where I started teaching people how to do exactly that. People who have already been relatively successful in business, but they've now noticed that the next leverage point for their personal happiness, joy, and satisfaction is actually improving their health and fitness. So making more money, or even working on their business, they realized, well, if I take care of myself a little bit more, I will probably even improve my business. But secondly, I'm going to be so much happier, because now I'll finally have this area of my life that I've been ignoring. I'll have that handled. Because you can lose balance, and most people do, where you just focus on one area, and then you neglect your relationships, you neglect yourself. And that's very common. Because the area of business it's very addictive in a sense. You know, it puts you in a flow state. It's amazing to improve in business, but at the same time, you are kind of doing what you know you're good at, and you're avoiding to do stuff that you suck at. So you're kind of running away from handling things that you're not good at, and that's a trap that most of us fall in. We like to do what we're good at, and we hate to do stuff that we know we should do, but we're just not good at it.
Out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, it's completely outside of your comfort zone. And that's the business side of things for me, is also massive. It's just my legacy. It's giving value. It's being able to change the world and make a positive impact. And at the same time, I know that if I make that positive impact, that I'll be happy with myself, because I'm not going to be selfish in a way that I'm holding back, right? That feeling that you're holding back, that you're not putting yourself out there, that's, for me personally, that's the worst feeling. Like I can't live with that fact that I know that I could be out there and helping and contributing, because that's what we're also hardwired to do. It's to be able to advance other people and in ourselves. So if I'm not doing that, I feel like I'm totally missing out on my purpose, and then I'm missing out on the opportunity to do that. And why am I even here? I mean, what's the point? Right? So I'm looking at, and in my business as well, like our number 1 policy, look, clients come first. Like, I don't care what needs to happen, but the client always comes first. And that's the philosophy that, I mean, I looked at Amazon, I looked at other companies that work like that operate like that, and I just see the massive impact they're making, and I'm also learning by modeling, and I'm seeing, and it really aligns with my core values as well. And the third one is relationships, and I think that's a really important one, because if you even have, you can be ripped, you can have, 7-8 figure business, and if you're alone, it doesn't really matter. So being alone and not taking care of that area of your life is a huge problem. That's where people are missing out on so much joy and so much happiness. And even if you don't have that well of a business or that well of a health and fitness, if you just have a huge community and support, and you have people that love you and you love people, like, you can probably get away with, you can just be happy, which is so powerful, right? Because at the end of the day, what is success? I mean, definition of it changed all the time. It's changing, right? Is it monetary? Is it this or that? At the end of the day, some people will even define it as just having a great family, for example, and having people, like, most people define success by that, right? And some will define success as being ripped. Yeah. Right?
Others for money.
Yeah, others for money, like having a huge company. But most people, actually, if you talk to them, they're going to be like, well, I have my 3-4 kids that they're crushing it, and I love it, and that's why I feel myself as successful. So it's really, you got to have all three. That's my philosophy, is that don't ignore any, work on all three, especially your relationships that you should not neglect. I think that's the area that most people neglect, is that they think, again, it's something you are born with. You're born as an extrovert. You're born as someone who can attract the opposite sex or talk to them and just express yourself. They don't see it as a skill, which is totally off, right? You can reinvent yourself. You can learn how to do that, and I guarantee your life is going to be 1,000,000,000 times better.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing for me. Relationships and forming them is the same thing as fitness. There's no universal formula. You need to find your way to approach people and build relationships that you like, not relationships that are like, you go to pick up course and you learn how to hit on girls, but this doesn't teach you how to build up a relationship. It teaches you how to get laid, for example.
Yeah, I mean, there's different levels you approach this at, but at the end of the day, it's you as a person who you need to define what you want, and then absolutely. You can go at it, and then you can look at it as one part of it is tactics and strategies and whatever you need to do. I mean, if you're a gamer introvert like I was, like a World of Warcraft gamer, staying at home most of the time, not going out, like any piece of advice at that point will improve my life. Like like just get out of the house, just get me out of the house is going to improve my life. So running outside of reality, escaping the fact that you can't go out and meet people, anything that will get you to do that, it's better than just staying at home and playing World of Warcraft. That sucks, right?
What did you play?
What do you mean? Like which expansion?
Class?
Oh, it was a warlock, and then I played a paladin, and I had a rogue as well.
Yeah, but it says that you were like ex-professional?
That was in an Unreal tournament. That was a different game.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so I was playing.
I've also played World of Warcraft. My brother used to be a semi-pro of League of Legends. He was getting a lot of money, he was still in high school, which is amazing because it can turn into a career, but it does mean that you need to follow all the rules that we just said. So does this fit your identity? Does this kill your relationship and your personal life? Because my brother was very good in everything. In his school, he had his girlfriend, everything was running really well. So this was like his hustle. It was his work. Yeah, which was amazing. So that's really cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing. For me, relationships and family, when they are a success, they are tightly related to the legacy, because this is our internal need to create a family. So pay forward, and having a family basically is creating a legacy. So this is 2-in-1, relationship and contribution. But I have my own personal fear is building up a family which I cannot support as the father that I want to be, to be the pillar and the strong person at home and have the successful business and stuff like that, which is it's my internal limiting belief, it might say, because you just keep postponing things that you want to do. Because I'm not ready, because I'm not getting this. You're
never ready, right?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the thing. If you were ready for it, it wouldn't make you grow.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mario, where are you from? We didn't say that.
Well, I'm a Croatian, right? So
Yeah.
I'm from, like, actually my family right now, we live in on the border between Bosnia and Croatia, on the south side.
Okay.
Well, it's a very small city. Most people will not.
No, I'm just
for a long
want
time,
to show that you're coming from a very, very small city.
Funny was for a long time when almost the entire world had Google Maps and mapped out, we didn't have, like, it was not on Google Maps.
Wow,
that's how you know.
Yeah, people in Bulgaria have the limiting belief that in Bulgaria nothing good happens and it's very hard, and only people that know other people can succeed. But you are basically a person that's coming from similar environment, and even like harder, that because your city was smaller and you were like doing your absolute best to get to do your own stuff and to make yourself a better person. Like, you are a self-made person for me. Like, self-made means that you intentionally seek help. The help from outside doesn't mean that you're not self-made. It means that you knew that you need someone to help you. He's not pulling you up. He's helping you climb.
Nobody's really helping you in that way. Like, nobody's doing the work for you. Nobody's going to the gym for you. Nobody's putting your reps in for you. And I like that you mentioned the limiting belief. Like, you need to get someone to help you. The way people mostly look at that is corruption, politics, financial support. My family doesn't have any rich cousin or any rich uncle. Like, we don't have anybody like that. We're a very, very small family. Our city is like 5,000 people or something, like nothing. And I live next to that city in a smaller village, right? So it's even smaller than that. The next closest city is an hour away, and it's like 50,000 people. It's divided between, like, this constant battle between, like, the Catholics and the Muslims. It's like constant battles and bullshit negativity all the time, right? And I didn't even go to, like, this. I didn't go out and go study in Zagreb so I can learn a bit. Nothing, right? You don't need any of that. I basically went from that city. I went straight out of there to Netherlands. Like, I flew out as soon as I got my stuff together. As soon as I started, I immediately flew out and I went to Netherlands, where I stayed a little bit, and then I started traveling the world. Like, I basically started a world tour where I went to 52 countries afterwards. But most of the foundation was built in living with my parents. Like, I didn't even move out. Like, I didn't have money to move out. So basically in one room, where I was sharing the room with my brother and with all of us there. I mean, as you say, you could say it's self-made, but at the same time, I don't see it as self-made. I see still, like, my parents, they couldn't understand what I was doing, but at least, they were very afraid of what's going to happen, but they weren't also, like, completely against it, where they were, like, trying to sabotage me or anything like that. Same with my friends. I mean, most of them don't even know to this day what I do. I mean, now they probably know because they check out my Facebook, but they didn't go out there and really do something against me or self-sabotage me. They were kind of like, oh, I don't even know what the hell he's doing. Right? Because it's really about you in the dark room, in the middle of the night, when you're supposed to deliver something that you promised. That's when it's going to happen, or it's not going to happen. And at that point, you can go and play World of Warcraft or Fortnite or whatever the hell the game is going to be at this point when you listen to this. You can go do that, or you can deliver what you know you need to deliver. And that's the point of where it's made. That's where the identity is formed. And that's where your integrity is formed as well. So when you promise that you're going to do something, you're going to do it. And if you just have that one core value, you can go very, very far with that, right?
What's the biggest lesson that you've learned going outside of Croatia and going to study abroad?
I didn't go study abroad. I became a digital nomad. So
you just became a digital nomad.
Yeah, okay, after I finished my studies, I was jobless, right? Because I didn't have a job. It was 2008, 2010, like the worst time probably in the last 20 years.
Depression.
Yeah, like it was, I mean, it's always depression in the Balkans, right? But I mean, in terms of even the worldwide economy, there was a lot of fear, and I remember, like, news, everybody was just talking about how bad it is. How it's crashing here, crashing there, currencies, blah, blah. To be honest, I was in a way stupid, so I didn't even know what the hell that stuff means. So it was good, right? I didn't even know what did that crashing economy, oh, whatever, it doesn't matter, and just continue. I went out and I became a digital nomad. when I started, because I was doing marketing before I started my fitness coaching company. I was doing marketing, and I was doing social media. I was doing a lot of different things for a variety of clients as a consultant, because that's the stuff that I needed to learn how to, if I wanted to start my own business. So I first started offering that as a service to someone else.
Okay.
Right. So I could.
So you knew, you had the plan in your head.
Not precisely what I'm going to do, but I had an idea that these are skills that I'm going to need.
Yeah. Why am I asking? Because some people think that they should have like a perfect plan, and it happens while you're doing it. You learn while you're doing most of the thing. At least with me, I know I'm doing my podcast and things are like coming in, and you just master them and you continue. It becomes better product. And
yeah, I mean, I could do these skills and put them in any kind of business model, right? Like if I wanted to do any kind of business or any kind of quote unquote passion, you still need to learn marketing. You still need to do social media. You still need to learn some basics of business. So you can't do anything without that. Yeah. And I approached it that way because I can't lose. If I learn this stuff, I'm going to use it anyway, no matter what I do. Yeah. And then of course, over time, passion is, you develop it over time to work. You see where you can add value. You see what you love to do the most. And you can see what you can do where you're also willing to pay the price of extremely hard work and giving up a lot of things. And you see what is worth paying that price. And that's, for me, was fitness. But just having passion alone and trying to, oh, I'm passionate and I'm going to start a business. Take the passion, go into UniCredit and go into the bank and try to cash it in. You'll see how much you can go, right? So it's about work, like massive, 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 massive amount of hustle and grind. Without the grind, you're not going to get very far.
Yep.
That's really the main thing.
Okay. So we can say the grind is the lesson that you've learned.
Yeah, that's the essential. That's the essential, like massive amounts of hard work. Like laziness is not an option at all.
Okay.
Like you cannot afford to build that habit at all. Like it has to be exterminated in the root. Like it never needs to come up.
Okay. When we're talking about passion, and I just want to ask you, what do you dream about? Where do you imagine yourself being in like 10 years, 5 years, 10 years?
At this point, for me, like I just see that I'm at a really happy place where I think that every day for me is a progression. I'm leveling up every single day. So everything that I do is, even looking back 1 year, I can see how much I've advanced. So when I look at myself 10 years, I'm just kind of like curious and excited. I'm excited about all the stuff that I'm going to learn in the process of getting to that point. Like I know everything is going to be better. I know that I'm going to be probably 100 times more successful, but I'm just curious about what is it going to take? Like what are going to be the lessons, and what is also going to be the price that I will have to pay for it?
So you're dreaming about the journey.
Yeah, it's like what is going to happen next? I'm kind of curious, because it's crazy when you operate. It's really hard to imagine the next 10 years. Even for me, I think I mentioned this at the seminars. When I first ventured out, and I wrote myself an email that's going to arrive back to me in 5 years. So when I wrote that email, I tried to really my hardest that I can do to imagine where I'm going to be 5 years from the point of writing the email. When I read that email, it was like, oh my God, like I was so limited in my perspective. It's like climbing a hill and there's a third hill that you can't even see because you haven't climbed this hill. And that's what my 5-year email was. And I'm reading that, oh my God, like I wasn't even aiming that high. Like what was going on here? And I overshot all of that by a ridiculous amount. Everything, every single thing. Like my first email was like basic stuff, like have enough, to eat good food, like to to not have to worry about paying bills, like to just have have a girlfriend, right? Like just any girlfriend. Like there was no definition, like there was nothing, right? Like then in terms of my fitness, like be in really good shape, like try to get down to at least see a 4-pack. It was like something, but it's funny to see because there were so many limiting beliefs. And over time, you just realize, oh my God, like things have changed so much. And I love that. I love seeing back and not being able to recognize my own self. That's amazing.
Awesome. Is there any like applications that help you with your life? Something that you can recommend to the people listening? They can keep them accountable or something like that that's useful in your daily life? I've recommended like Evernote and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in self-accountability. I mean, getting an app to hold you accountable, I don't think it works. External motivation doesn't work very far. I mean, it doesn't work at all almost. It's, like, even if the $100 example, like if I tell you right now, you're going to release this podcast episode or I'm going to keep the $100 or the next one and the next one. If like eventually because of the way, you know, behavioral economics work, you're going to want 120 and 130. Like there's so many flaws with that model. What I recommend and what helps me a lot is just basically using Google Calendar to organize my week. Just when something is in Google Calendar, it's going to happen no matter what. So I'm basically surrendering to the calendar. In calendar runs my life. Like if this didn't end up on the calendar, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
So whatever ends up on the calendar, I know that the time is allocated. It's very precisely allocated. I know exactly when it's going to happen. I know how long it's going to be. Like when we schedule this, I thought, okay, is 2 hours a block enough? And I know exactly, okay, 2 hours from now, I have something else to do.
Yeah, yeah. I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I've met another fellow podcaster here, and he was telling me, I'm having a problem with my guests. I said, what's the problem? He said, the problem is that we set a date and then they don't come back to me. And I said, okay, go again. He said, we set a date and then and I asked him, okay, do you set a time? He's like, no, then we set a date and then we say on this date we're going. It doesn't work like this. You set a time, you say this is the time, and then if I say Mario between 12 and 14 on Wednesday, we are going to record, and this person says yes, okay, let's do it. Even if he has to fall back because of another thing that's really important or something pops up, he's going to feel responsible for coming back to you and making it up for another session. So you wouldn't need to have two conversations about setting up a meeting. So this is something that's very useful. Like set up a time for your meetings, for your things that you do. Otherwise, you just like floating down. I haven't set my fitness things in my calendar yet because I'm still struggling to get my fitness schedule back. Because when I was living in Germany, I was waking up at 4:30 every morning to go to the gym. My gym was 24/7, which was amazing. And I was going back around 9, going to bed around 9 and waking up at 4:30 to work out, and I felt so good. Now here it's not possible because the earliest opening gyms are like 6:30. But yeah,
that's
I need to get back on this right track. All right, should we have a few words about the books on your website? I also want to do it on my website. You have a whole book section where you recommend, I think you recommend 3 books or 6 books, like that top recommended, and then everything like else is below that. And I saw there on the first page, on the first line, one of the books that I recommend the most, Mastery by Robert Greene. So can you tell me a bit more about why did you put Mastery there and which are the other books? Like that you highly recommend, like the 7 Habits. I've also like recommended it numerous times.
Yeah, all the books that I wrote, and it's really hard to pick out which books someone should read, even if you go on that page, which is I think tomic.com/books or something like that. If you even go on that page, you will see that there's 600 books on there, right? Now, I read when I go through those books, right, as I was reading, I know that I gotta pick a book that it's gonna relate to me in the moment where I'm at right now. Otherwise, that book is just not gonna stick, and I'm not gonna make use of it. So I'm just wasting my time kind of with it. It's gonna still give me something, maybe some inspiration, maybe something like that, but it's not gonna really give me what I need in the moment. So if I'm in my company, let's say if we're hiring right now, I'm gonna read books about hiring. If I'm, let's say, doing a lot of stuff related to, I just wanna remind myself of the grind, of the process, of the mastery journey, I'm gonna read Mastery, right? And I'm gonna reread it. It's not that I'm just gonna read the book once and it's done. If I notice myself losing focus, I'm gonna start reading books like The One Thing. like essentialism. I'm going to start reinventing myself because that book, it's so condensed that the person has basically put their entire life work in 100 or 200 pages, on average 200 pages. I mean, it's just nothing. So you better be listening. There's so much value out of every book that you could reread it. I think the other one that I put there is Jonathan Haidt's Happiness Hypothesis.
Yeah, it is.
Just understanding what makes you happy. That's really important. Like, if you don't know what makes people happy, like, how are you going to be happy? And guess what? People have already figured it out. You know, you believe, oh, we don't know what makes people happy. No, we do. Like, we know a pretty good idea, like, what makes people happy. And it's a pretty good starting point compared to guessing, right? Psycho-cybernetics, the one we just mentioned, learning about self-image and being able to reinvent yourself. And that's so powerful. Like, most people don't think that it's possible to change who they are. If you're bad at math, you're supposed to be bad at math for the rest of your life. Or if you're an introvert, you're supposed to be an introvert for the rest of your life. There's a lot you can do about that. There's a lot you can do about your own identity. There's so many different things you can do. So yeah, definitely check out the list and those 600. I mean, you don't have to dive into an entire 600, but even if you check out the top ones, you're going to get a tremendous amount of value out of it. Like, tremendous amount of value. There's other ones that I really love, like Bounce from Matthew Said. I love his Black Box Thinking. There's so many different ones that I could recommend you right now off the top of my head, but it's important that you pick one, that you really pay attention, read it, make notes, and as you're reading it, really observe how this will impact you and your life. So then you're actually making it something tangible instead of just reading through it and falling into the trap of, oh, I'm reading one book a week or I'm reading 2 books a month. Nothing will happen if you just keep reading them all the time like that, but try to implement something out of each one, at least one thing. Just one thing is enough.
Great example. This is like implementation is everything that really matters. If you apply what you've just learned, otherwise it's just knowledge.
It disappears.
Yeah, absolutely. When you don't use it, it disappears. Yeah, thanks for that. Guys, I highly recommend these books. I've read most of them. Last year I had this very relaxed year when I didn't play football. I didn't do anything that I didn't want to do. I was just only working out, reading books, listening podcasts, and it allowed me to read more than 60 books, which was amazing. But at some point it just becomes overflowing. I probably didn't, if I knew that I should probably read books that are related to the moment that I'm in, it would have been way better for me, because you learn other approaches towards the things that are in your head. So I do recommend this thing. I'm doing it at the moment. The book that I'm reading right now is Homo Deus by Harari.
Yeah, I know that book.
I read Sapiens and I really liked the concept, so I thought, okay, Homo Deus is next. And I'm listening it, and there he's saying something about happiness. It is, of course, related to expectations, guys. And this is why kids are extremely happy, and we are forming our own expectations at some point, and then we don't fulfill them, and then we are unhappy for stupid things or for things that we didn't achieve, and it's the ball is in our hands.
Absolutely. And a quick tip for all the guys that hate reading, listen to audiobooks. Just listen to audiobooks. If you don't like reading, you might be a more like acoustic reader and audio type person. You could just listen to audiobooks. And if you find yourself losing focus while you're listening to an audiobook, just listen to it faster. Just put it on 1.2 speed. And your brain can keep up, but it was going to have to work harder, so you're going to be less distracted because it has to work harder. Same with reading a book. One of the reasons why reading a book is boring is because a lot of you guys probably listening to this don't know how to read in a way that it's entertaining for your brain. Does that make sense? So reading's a bit about learning how to read, going to speed reading, how to read without actually reading the words vocally in your mind. So imagining what the words are, just reading it to yourself internally. That's not the best way, because it's boring. Your brain can work much faster, so it's not entertaining for the brain, and then you zone out. You end up at the last the point of the page, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, or you don't remember what you read.
Yeah.
This happened to me like tens and thousands of times.
Yeah, because your brain is not engaged with the material, so you have to learn how to read it faster and absorb it faster. and then you're going to be it's going to be so engaging that you're going to want to finish it.
Yeah, this is how I read at the moment. I'm reading so quickly. My girlfriend is like, "Are you actually reading this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I read quickly, and I listen to audiobooks on 1.5. It's just, I like doing it because when you listen to a book on 1.5, you can listen to it again and again and again, and you keep picking up stuff that you haven't heard last time because you are walking and there was a car and you just defocus your attention on something else, but next time you like, this was really, really powerful. How did I miss that?" And especially the non-fiction books, of course, the classics. I wouldn't recommend anyone like listening to a classic on audio, but these ones that have knowledge, that have advices, people that have spent their like 20 years of their lives to create a book like Persuasion by Cialdini. It's amazing book. You need to listen to it at least like once. I've listened to it like at least 5 times now. So I know how people try selling me stuff.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it all is a part of learning more about the human experience, right? Connecting the dots, putting the piece of the puzzle together, so you know what, like you get different perspectives on life, so you understand life better, and it just makes you appreciate things in one way much more, because you know in depth what's going on. Like you're increasing your competence, which is another psychological need. So the more you know about things and the more you're feeling that you're more competent, it just gives you the amazing feeling that you're moving ahead and you feel like you're just progressing, which is another way to be happy, right?
Yeah. It's very interesting when we're having this conversation now, and when you shared your 5 points after my presentation on Sunday, that we overlapped so massively. I mean, I basically wanted to take everyone through the journey of me creating the podcast, because now it has like 90 episodes. This should be 93, and every one is like at least 1 hour, but I focused on the mentorship in the way that is, you can listen to and have a friend that you've never actually met. You can be a friend of Mario and Nicola and Stan without even meeting them. You are being mentored by me and my guests at the moment. So everything that you need to talk to someone progressive, if you say, hey, my friends are all like drinking and smoking and getting high and stuff, just focus on podcasts, audiobooks. This is mentorship next level. It's in your pocket. A very quick way to change your entire thinking. And we're not going to tell you, hey, go jump out of a bridge or out of your window. We're going to tell you, these are people that have done it, they've succeeded in what they do, and they love doing it. You can do it. We are like, I had this metaphor today, we are like the Roger Bannisters, people that actually did it, and you can find your small story inside one person of these 90 people and say, yeah, I'm living in this small village, so far away from the capital in Bulgaria, or so far away from where like normal people live, and I'm stuck here with my internet and my headphones, and here we are. You're here every week, you're here. Mario is airing his videos, and Nicola and Stan are teaching you how to train, and it doesn't matter where you are, it matters what you want to do and where you want to be. So thanks for allowing us to share such knowledge, and I'm very happy for my rant at the moment, because yeah, I'm being mentored by Dan Sullivan. I saw that you have like the 80% principle on the list as well, and I even went to a conference in London a few weeks ago. I was referred to by a friend that's part of the strategic coach program, and Dan was so down to earth. He was such a great person to talk to. Like, I felt like I really want to be here, and I know that I want to do like my absolute best to be there and sign up for the program that costs $10,000 per year, so I can be a part of this community. Because now I have the community here and all the superhumans that I'm interviewing, but the next step would be to go global, to go and talk to people like you. And that's why I really saw the opportunity, and I said I want to invite Mario to join, because I would love to expand. I'm not going to be like stuck on the level I'm here in Bulgaria. I want to bring in people that have knowledge. I want to bring in Tony Robbins on the podcast. I want him to put his 5 cents of wisdom and knowledge and just send it here for people to see. Georgi was not having his podcast 2 years ago. Now he's talking to Tony Robbins and he's giving it to us for free because actually the podcast is sharing value. This is my contribution and I love doing it. I love doing it. So yeah, thanks for coming in. Do you have anything that you want to add so we can wrap up? And it was an amazing, actually, wow, an hour already.
I appreciate your invitation, man. I'm really honored and humbled to be here, and be grateful, guys, as well. Like what I said in the seminar is be grateful that you're in 2018, right? Be grateful that you're able to actually think about the things that we're talking about now. If you were born, and I'm always thinking about this, if I was born 100 years ago, I'd be probably somewhere in a cold ditch raining on me, and I'd be holding a rifle shooting at some brother of mine and like just across the pond or somewhere. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. So we don't value and appreciate the time we're in, and that also is one reason why we procrastinate a lot, because we think that it's just, we're so entitled that, oh, I deserve to be like, you should appreciate the fact that you're here and you be grateful. The ability that I can even sit down here with you, that's amazing. Like I wake up every day and it's like I can't even believe, like I'm waking up to a dream. I mean, it's ridiculous. So what you said, surround yourself with this positive influence, because you can control your environment to a really great extent with internet headphones and just zone out. Like you don't need to listen to some random nonsense, but be grateful for that, because it's such a great opportunity, and it's incredible for me to see how many people waste this opportunity now to use this time that they're in and just take it for granted. And that sucks, man. That's one of the reasons, that I'm really inspired.
People, I had this moment probably before I left Bulgaria for Germany. I was really grateful for who I am, for my girlfriend, for my friends, for the people that I've met. And then Germany, I had a really bad winter. I mean, I was like stressed out, depressed a bit. And then one day after the spring has arrived in Germany, and I was walking, I was thinking, I stopped being grateful for being healthy, for being able to walk, to have my both hands, to have my ears that I can listen with, and eyes to see the beauty of the world, and lungs to breathe in the air. And like when you're grateful for the minor things that happen, like you were saying, for waking up, you start noticing more of these things that you're grateful for, like the view, the greenness of the trees here, and you start like forming up your pink world that's actually beautiful and you love it. Because people that are not grateful, they just stick to the negative, to the mud, to the swearings, to the toxicity. I created this podcast because I bumped into a podcast called Addicted to Success, and there was an episode with a personal development rapper, Prince EA. He was talking about how to get rid of your negative friends and toxic environment. And I was thinking, this should be, everyone should think about that. People should stop thinking negatively and start thinking positively, and being grateful is the first step.
Yeah, I know what people will think. You know, it's easy to be grateful when you're. It's easy to be grateful when you have things figured out to some extent, and that's very far from the truth. Like if you can't be grateful today, you won't be grateful when you're millionaire, when you lost weight, when you're a millionaire, when you have a great relationship, and it's going to bleed in. And number one, the universe is not even going to give it to you because you're not grateful for even the small things that you have. Operating from negativity and punishment, it doesn't lead to consistency of action. That's a big problem, and that's what I've seen as well. Like the gratitude is something you can start expressing today, because it requires no talent, nothing. You can just start doing it right now, and it's gonna enable you then to grind really hard when most people give up. Like most people will give up. Like 99% of people will give up. And to be the 1%, you got to look what 1% does. And the 1% is grateful. So you can either do it or you not do it. But I mean, that's the reality. So, yeah.
Leading by example. This was how my speech started. It started about leading by example and then forming your environment with people that are positive and grateful and learn from them and then pay forward, like you said, contribute. Mario, it was an amazing pleasure having you here. I have one final question for you. If you can go back in time to the 18-year-old Mario and you can give him some information, you can tell him something, what would you tell him?
Honestly, man, I wouldn't want to change my 18-year-old self, even though it wasn't really that, I could do much more than I should have, but I didn't want to change anything. Like, I wouldn't want to tamper with it, because anything I say, who knows, it might have compromised what I have today, so I wouldn't want to do it.
All right. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you for listening for this first episode of the Superhuman podcast in English, actually. Hope that you liked it. Hope that we were talking in a way that you understand, and we're not have very bad accents. I think your accent is really good, Mario, so good work. It was a great work having our foreign language, because your mother tongue is Croatian.
Yeah.
Is it Croatian, Serbian?
Croatian,
and mine is Bulgarian. But we're having this podcast. We're 2018. We're having this podcast in a foreign language, so you can, guys, listen to this piece of golden advices and nuggets that we've had here. Thanks to my Patreon supporters. Thanks to Nicola, who is also my Patreon supporter and helped me get into the conference on Sunday and meet you. Thanks to Stani, thanks to Ivan, thanks to Miro, and thanks to Evelina for supporting the podcast. If you want to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/superhuman and you'll be able to donate and become a part of it. Wishing you all the best in this week and talk to you next week. Bye bye.